Kia ora folk, welcome, good morning, and welcome to Naturopathy with Bridgitt radio program show on Radio Kidnappers in Hastings, Hawke's Bay, New Zealand. So a warm welcome to you. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy morning, busy day to listen to me and to see how I can help you naturally. Today's chat is on the benefits of vitamin D to boost your immunity. Plus vitamin D is much more health benefits, and I'll talk about those as well. For those new to the program, I am a qualified and registered naturopath. I trained here in New Zealand. I am a medical herbalist, a nutritionist, a reflexologist, a lymphatic drainage specialist. And I offer you natural health solutions to help you balance any physical or mental, emotional issues you may have. And I do this with nutrition, vitamins and minerals if you need it, herbal medicine, definitely herbal medicine, bark flower essences, and some lifestyle suggestions. So it's a one-stop shop here with Bridgitt. Okay, so vitamin D, you might have heard it a bit lately in the news, and it's very important, and I'm going to tell you why. So roughly about 1920, a long time ago, we had a bit of an epidemic with rickets in children. It was a painful childhood bone disease called rickets, and there was a frantic search to find a cure, and so this chap came up with, he discovered vitamin D would help the bones, the brittle bones, strengthen them. So that's roughly when vitamin D came on the scene strongly, I suppose. So I'm going to tell you about vitamin D. So it's a fat-soluble vitamin, meaning that it does not dissolve in water, and it's absorbed best in your bloodstream when it's linked or when it's joined with a healthy fat. That's when it gets taken into where it's supposed to go. So technically, that's a big word this morning, it's not a vitamin because it's naturally produced in the human body by the sun, and you can get it from a few foods as well. So when it needs to be converted by the body into vitamin D3 before it can be used, it becomes a vitamin, like when you take it as a supplement. So after the vitamin D is absorbed through the skin or from food, it gets stored into your body's fat cells, where it remains inactive until it's needed. So it gets absorbed. There's a process. It's not just sitting in the sun. There's an actual process about it. So you sit in the sun, right, or you might eat foods, and then there's these steps that you've got to go through. So this is a big word coming up. It's a new word. It's hydroxylation, okay? So first of all, you absorb the sun onto your skin, but it's got to go through a pathway in your liver. Step 1, to get converted, and then step 2 for further conversion, a pathway in your kidneys. So it's more than just sitting in the sun or eating some vitamin D foods. So that process converts it into the active form of vitamin D3. Who knew, right? More than that. Who knew? So the reason why I'm talking about vitamin D3, vitamin D, is because lately in my clinic, I've been asking my clients, how's your vitamin D levels? Have you had blood tests lately? And they go, look, I'm fine. I sit in the sun. I get my vitamin D through the sun. And I go, well, yeah, that's okay. Yeah, okay. But do you know what your actual vitamin D blood level is? How do you know if sitting in the sun is good for you, is got your levels up? Bit of science is always good, I say, because vitamin D can also increase excess vitamin D, right? Oh no, hang on. Vitamin D increases your calcium absorption. So if you have too much vitamin D, this can result in toxicity as well, and that makes you have too much calcium. So we need calcium for many processes, bone, make our heart function as well, many processes. But you can have too much or too little vitamin D, which affects your calcium levels. So it's really important to get it checked. Most general medical practitioners here in New Zealand will not do a vitamin D test as part of your standard blood test routine. And that's okay, you know, we can get around there. There's another choice. You can just pop, did you know you can pop into your local blood laboratory here in New Zealand, rock up there and ask them for a vitamin D blood test. You will have to pay, just like if you had to go to the doctor, you would have to pay for this specific vitamin D3 blood test. But hey, wouldn't you like to know? Wouldn't you like to know what your baseline is, so that if you do decide to supplement, you'll know, oh yeah, I've got that much, and then I'll take a bit more like that every day, and then I'll go back and check. I certainly would like to. Wouldn't you, Ken?
I'd love to.
Good, Ken. Okay, so let's chat about getting your vitamin D3, you know, from the sun. Let's have a look at that here in New Zealand. And different people need different amounts of vitamin D, and that depends on a lot of factors actually. It's not like one case for everybody. So the research has shown that darker skinned folk need how much more? 6 times more, that's a lot, than fair skinned folk of sitting in the sun. And why? Because they have this pigment called melanin in the dark skin that doesn't really allow the skin ultraviolet B rays to get through as easily. So that is one issue. When I was doing my research for this chat, I saw a big study on India, which showed that 70% of whoever they studied showed that they were deficient in vitamin D. And I was chatting to this lovely Indian young man on the weekend, and he said yes, he correlated with that, and he actually had blood tests done. So he said, yes, I am one of those people from India that have low vitamin D. So he is on a supplement. The skin produces more vitamin D when you're in the sun during, there's a few times that people think are the best. So middle of the day is best, but crikey, it's really hot in the middle of the day, so be careful. So between 10 and 3 o'clock they roughly reckon. But you know, in summer it's really hot about midday, so we're going to be putting on hats, we're going to be putting on long sleeve shirts. We've been really trained to cover up in the sun, put some sunscreen on. All of that blocks your natural vitamin D that you get from the sun, those ultraviolet B rays that can get onto your skin. So, you know, if sitting in the sun all the time, it has its pros and cons. Sitting inside, maybe by the glass window, and you think, oh, I'm getting the sun through the glass. Yeah, no, that's not going to work either, because the sun ultraviolet rays can't get through the glass at you. So, you know, you think about the risk of skin cancer, that's very high in New Zealand as well. So, you know, yeah, I sit in the sun all day, but you've got to think about your pros and cons about that, especially here in New Zealand. Yes, the ozone hole over New Zealand has practically closed up. We're very lucky there. But still, we have very high skin cancer rates here in New Zealand. So also think about the cloud cover. You know, you're not going to get much UV ultraviolet rays when it's a cloudy day, or if you're in smog, if you're in the city and there's a lot of smog. Also, if you're taking, you know, it depends where you are, North or South Island, that could make a bit of a difference as well. The seasons, if it's winter, it's less powerful, the sun, and we've talked about the time of the day. So if you're taking medications, or even a herb called St. John's wort, that can make you sensitive to the sun, and so you can't really sit out in the sun. So think about that. Okay, then vitamin D can interact with some medication as well, because it goes down the same liver pathway as some medications. So it's always really good to check that out, or maybe take your vitamin D 12 hours after you've taken your medication, so give it a good distance. The health of your liver and kidneys do play a big part in the conversion of vitamin D3, vitamin D. And I don't think many folk realise that. It's very, very important. The health of your gut as well. You've heard me talk lots about gut health, but to absorb that vitamin D, it needs to be attached to a healthy fat and it needs to be absorbed in your tummy. People with celiac disease, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, oh, that's a big word, and also folk with no gallbladder, they have issues with vitamin D. Even extremely overweight folk need more vitamin D3 because it gets absorbed in their fat cells, and it will only get released when they need it or when they lose weight. Also, folk who've undergone gastric bypass surgery because the upper small part of the small intestine gets removed, and this is where the vitamin D is absorbed. So they will forever be supplementing vitamin D or eating lots of foods with vitamin D. So why is it important to have high levels of vitamin D? Okay, so the angle I'm mostly coming from today is to boost your immunity. I've talked about immunity on many shows, and vitamin D is to boost your immunity as well. At the moment, there's a country around the world, Ireland, their government have commissioned a study to recommend vitamin D to every single person in their country, because they've now done their research and they are showing that it is very good for boosting your immunity, and it's your natural defence system against what's happening around the world. So, well done, Ireland! Woohoo! Okay, so vitamin D. Vitamin D is classed as an immune modulator, and it enhances the fighting effects against any virus, any bacteria, any fungi. It decreases inflammation, and it helps to promote and boost your healthy immune response. Studies have shown that there's a vitamin D deficiency linked to respiratory infections as well, such as pneumonia, tuberculosis, and any bronchitis issues. So we all know that respiratory infections is one of the side effects of the current worldwide virus, so why wouldn't you want to take some vitamin D? Okay, other reasons. So there's other reasons to vitamin D more than just boosting your immunity. Bone health and osteoporosis. So keep your bone strong. Osteoporosis is what comes in over past menopause. Women get it, men get it, and it helps to keep your bones strong, helps the good calcium levels that we spoke about earlier. And low vitamin D levels can affect your muscle strength as well and lead to muscle weakness and pain. Postmenopausal women, we've talked about that, and older men, they show that both vitamin D, I'm reading research here, and calcium result in small increases in bone mineral density throughout the skeleton. And it also helps older folk who are in elderly folk who maybe are more prone to falls as well. It helps strengthen their bones. Vitamin D also plays a role in type 2 diabetes. So it's for glucose metabolism, and it helps to stimulate the insulin production, so it's really important in there. My research shows multiple sclerosis. So MS is an autoimmune disease of the central nervous system, and there's many studies that have shown that there's an association between low vitamin D and MS, multiple sclerosis, before and after that disease begins. And observational studies have shown that adequate vitamin D levels might reduce the risk of multiple sclerosis and slow its progression down as well. So also depression. So vitamin D I've seen in clinic, folk who come to me who have depression or even anxiety have low vitamin D levels. The vitamin D is involved in various brain processes. So, yeah, it's really important there as well. Cardiovascular, heart disease. Vitamin D deficiency has been linked with anything to do with the heart, the muscle of the heart, the arterial, anything like that. It's needed to help with calcium, and we need calcium for the heart to work efficiently. Cancer, yeah, I saw a lot of studies with various cancers that vitamin D can help, may help with the cancer there and slow tumour progression down. So there's lots of studies there. Also, I take vitamin D, I take it in a liquid form, and I've noticed that my hair has got really thicker. So there is a correlation there between vitamin D and hair loss as well. Try it. Proof's in the pudding. You can prove me wrong. Okay, so what can you do to help yourself? Of course, you can sit in the sun at the right times. Make sure your liver and kidneys are functioning well. Make sure your gut is functioning and absorbing well. You can eat some foods that are high in vitamin D. There's not many, but there's a few. So I've got a list here. So cod liver oil, and we go, yuck, yuck. But no, really, it's really, really good. So 1 tablespoon will give you a good hit each day. Okay, so trout, salmon, so a lot of animal products can help you. Don't fear, for vegetarians and vegans, you know, there's also mushrooms are really high in vitamin D, especially if you put them out in the natural sunlight for a while and let the sun, midday, let the sun radiate onto your mushrooms. That will definitely boost the vitamin D level. Try it. I've researched it. Sounds pretty good to me. And of course we've got milk, fortified milk, fortified cereals, sardines, eggs, a little bit tuna, a little bit liver and beef, a little bit. So a combination of eating all these really well, maybe sitting in the sun, making sure your liver is good, your kidneys are good, but really just getting a good blood test. So that's my tip of the day. All right, so the tip of the day is go get your vitamin D blood test done. You can take yourself into the blood lab. You have to pay, it's roughly, I don't know, $55 at the moment, but you would have to pay that through your doctor anyway. Guessing does not cut the mustard with Bridgitt. You need a bit of science to know what your baseline is, how much you should take, and then go back and get tested again to know that you're not taking excessive vitamin D. Okay, so we need vitamin D to boost our immunity. It's part of our natural defense system against any passing virus, any bacteria and any fungi. Why wouldn't you take vitamin D? Okay folks, so if you think that you might like to come along and get a natural health immunity assessment done with Bridgitt, you can contact me on 027 284 3781. You can contact me right here on Radio Kidnappers. I've got a page here, I've got a Facebook page, and I do have a website there which I'll be putting this video up on for you to have a look at. So stay safe, be kind to everybody, and go and get your vitamin D3 tested. Kia ora.